Welcome back, guys, to Phoenix Wright, Spirit of Justice, as our case returns to trial once more after what I'd consider to be a relatively short investigation phase, with more evidence gathered and more intrigue in the past kind of revealed. Let's see what's going to happen. So the one thing we found out yesterday is that Sorin was there at the crime scene. I only hope I can get some testimony from him that will get to the heart of the matter. Mr. Wright. Good morning, Ellen. Look, I'm afraid you might not like the result of today's trial. Nevertheless, don't tell me you're still thinking of going that route. Sorin is innocent. He can't be found guilty. Take me instead. Ellen, please. Try and get a hold of yourself. She sucked her hair back together again. I believe in Sorin with all my heart. So how dare you doubt him? Regardless of which one of them is found guilty today, it's going to be devastating for Ellen, isn't it? We'll just have to do everything we can. That's just the best we can do, you know? The trial is about to begin, Mr. Wright. Alright, let's go, Maya. Yeah. What more has the prosecution managed to dredge up? What angles are they going with this time? We've got past time travel now. But that's just made other things suspicious. Other people suspicious. Will Edgeworth be a bit more reasonable in court today? Or will he still be a staunch foe? The court is back in session for the trial of Ellen Wyatt. The defense is ready, Your Honor. The prosecution is ready, Your Honor. Let's see now. Where were we? In yesterday's session, we found out about the Sprocket family's conspiracy to cover up the murder of Dumas Gloomsbury with a second reception. Taking advantage of our collective shock, the defense as usual made a nonsensical claim. Namely, that there was a third person present who struck the victim. Objection! Hey, don't try to make it sound like I made it all up. The defendant herself made a statement about the existence of a third person. And further investigation has only proven a statement to be true. And I presume the defense intends to focus on proving the identity of this third person. Is that alright with you, Mr. Edgeworth? Indeed, Your Honor. In fact, I predict that the defense will most likely attempt to name Mr. Sorin Sprocket as the true culprit. How did you... The driver during the accident that killed Mr. Sprocket's sister was the victim. Therefore, Mr. Sprocket had a motive to murder Mr. Gloomsbury. That's what you plan to assert, is it not, Mr. Wright? Am I that transparent? Well, you kind of share everything that you really do with the prosecution, considering you're always having to go by the detective on the scene after all, e.g. Emma. Anything you do will be shared with the prosecution, Phoenix. Come now, Mr. Wright. Did you really think the police wouldn't uncover this information? Apart from that, of course. That wasn't with Emma, but still. Congrats on getting it in one, Mr. Edgeworth. But... You're wrong. Sorin didn't do it. He's innocent. Miss Wyatt, please. He's innocent, I tell you. What is this, Mr. Wright? I thought your claim about the existence of a third person came from the defendant. It did. This is just a minor hiccup. Did you not discuss your strategy for today with the defendant, Mr. Wright? Starting off on the wrong foot again is seriously cutting into my lifespan. It would appear that the defense is in disarray. Therefore, the best way to clear things up is to ask Mr. Sprocket himself what happened. Your Honor, the prosecution would like to call Sorin Sprocket to the stand. What? Very well. And bailiff, please bring Mr. Sprocket to the witness stand. So the prosecution has started with this angle. A witness, please state your name and occupation. You're gonna chuck that at the judge, are you? Well, contempt of court, you're in jail. Well done. No, you're chucking it at me, aren't you? Who are you chucking at? Ow! There's something written on this paper airplane. Let's see. Sorin Sprocket, Managing Director of Sprocket Aviation. Mr. Sprocket, please give your answers in words, not paper airplanes. Now then, Mr. Sprocket. Please tell the doubting lawyer there that what really happened at the time of the crime. Well, Mr. Sprocket? Mr. Sprocket. Alright. You want me to talk about what happened when the crime occurred? In other words, after the first wedding reception. When Ellen and I were in the reception hall, right? Not even the power of the court can stop him from marching to the beat of his own drum. I think that's the same for everyone. Have we ever had a cooperating witness that hasn't even been cooperating for crap reasons? I was stabbed by Dumas in the reception hall and I collapsed to the floor. The next thing I saw was Ellen and Dumas on the Vista deck. I knew Ellen was in danger, so I headed for the Vista deck. But when I got there, Dumas was already... I don't want to believe it, but it must have been Ellen. Nothing else makes sense. Wait just a minute here. You actually think Miss White killed the victim? That's right. Dumas was killed. By Ellen. This is unbelievable. How can you suspect your bride, the woman you love?
Objection!
The truth can be cruel. Miss White, you must be very upset. Is there anything you wish to say? No. I can't believe this. Sorin. I thought that at least you would believe in me. The best way now to show your love for your groom is to admit your guilt and try to atone. Sorin.
Hold it!
Mr. Edgeworth, I haven't even cross-examined the witness yet. And quit picking on the clearly distraught. Yeah, that's not cool, Mr. Edgeworth. The court is where we seek the truth. And the truth is unyielding, even to the truly pitiful. Mr. Edgeworth, I find it distasteful to make a lady cry. Et tu, Your Honor? So, what are you going to do, Nick? If the third person Ellen saw on the Vista deck was Sorin, then we have to prove Sorin was there at the time of the murder. I don't see any obvious inconsistencies in his testimony, but we have to push forward. That's otherwise Phoenix Wright speech for let's press! Until we get ourselves a statement that we can use. I was stabbed by Dumas in the reception hall and I collapsed to the floor.
Hold it!
Please tell me everything you can about when you got stabbed. After the reception, Ellen and I were enjoying a moment alone in the reception hall. Then Dumas appeared and stabbed me. He grabbed Ellen and the timekeeper and left the reception hall. Did Mr. Bloomsbury say anything at that time? I don't remember. After I was stabbed, I was immobilized by the pain. I see. The next thing I saw was Ellen and Dumas on the Vista deck. Oh, press, Sam, press. Every so often I miss a statement.
Hold it!
The Vista deck, huh? But it was nighttime then. Could you really see them in the darkness? The moon was out, so I could see them clearly. From the looks of it, Dumas was trying to push Ellen and the timekeeper off the side. So you saw the defendant? About to be thrown off the airship, you say? That's right. In such a desperate situation, it would only be natural for her to fight for her life. And the murder weapon was right there within her grasp. This isn't going well at all. I've got to do something fast. I knew Ellen was in danger, so I headed for the Vista deck.
Hold it!
I understand that your bride was in danger, but were you really able to move a stab wound to the gut? He moved quite a bit after Phoenix. I was desperately trying to push the pain out of my mind. I see, so adrenaline kicked in and gave you strength. Is that right? I don't see much of anything in this statement I can refute. Nope. That's right. I almost passed out several times as I made my way to the Vista deck. But when I got there, Dumas was already what?
Hold it!
Are you absolutely sure, Mr. Sprocket, that by the time you got to the Vista deck, the murder had already been committed? Yes. But the Vista deck is just on the other side of the glass windows in the reception hall. Also, this isn't a murder if basically this guy stabbed someone and is chasing after you. It's like no way like a premeditated murder at that point. Shouldn't you have been able to get there right away?
Objection!
Mr. Wright, have you investigated nothing? The only way to the Vista deck is to go to the hold and take the lift. No matter how much one hurries, it would take at least 10 minutes. Ah, well that's unhelpful. But Sorin had to have gotten there before the murder or my claim won't stand. Do you have any ideas for me, Maya? It's definitely easier to prove that someone did go to the hold than not. I mean, you can't leave anything if you don't go someplace, right? Can't leave anything? Wait a minute, I think Maya is onto something here. The lack of a certain something actually proves that Sorin didn't go to the hold. What's the matter? Are you stumped already? No, I'm far from stumped, Mr. Edgeworth. I know for a fact that Mr. Sprocket didn't go to the hold. You and your paper-thin bluffs. Mr. Sprocket's bloodstain on the lift proves he went through the hold. So what possible proof could you have that he did not, in fact, go through there? You want proof? You got it. You could do this, Phoenix. There's gotta be proof that Sorin didn't go through the hold. Well, Mr. Wright. This proves that Mr. Sprocket didn't go through the hold. Well, I think this is easy enough, right? After all, the hold entry records say that the last person was Ellen. Then Pierce before that, Dumas before that. But no record of Sorin using a keycard to get through there.
Take that!
As anyone can see from the hold entry record, there's absolutely no mention of Sorin Sprocket entering the hold. The defense asserts that Mr. Sprocket used a different route to get to the Vista deck. You can assert all you want, Mr. Wright, but can you actually prove another route exists? Can I prove the existence of another route to the Vista deck, you ask? Well, I can think of something that might have been used as the next route, because there was that emergency door that maybe, I don't know if there's actually a walkway on the other side of the door or anything like that might get round to the Vista deck, but I don't actually have anything at all, I don't think. I mean, that pamphlet doesn't really show. You see actually the doorway at the side is actually marked there. But I don't know if there's like a walkway. I think I'm lacking a certain amount of proof, but I'm not sure. Like, I theorize that there might be a walkway out there, but that's theory, not truth. So is this a case of let things be and things will come out? Or I can or not yet? Oh, whatever. We could take a penalty all the same. Alright, well, I don't actually have any physical proof. Now that I really think about it, I guess it's going to be hard to prove. But I can't back down now. The trial will be over if I do. There's only one thing I can do at a time like this. Oh, we're bluffing? Really? If we got into that, I can prove it. But I said not yet! Even if it's just a bluff, I have to present something. Anything that could prove the existence of a faster route to the Vista deck. Very well then, Mr. Wright. Oh look, now we bring that up. What the hell was the point in that statement choice then? It shows how Mr. Sprocket got to the Vista deck. Mr. Sprocket made for the Vista deck through here. We know exactly what we're choosing.
Take that!
To save his bride from danger, Mr. Sprocket opened the escape hatch and made his way alongside the outside wall to the Vista deck. Isn't that right, Mr. Sprocket? While grievously injured. I guess there was a small ledge. That would certainly be a much faster route to the visitor deck.
Objection!
I'm disappointed, Mr. Wright. Is that really the best you could muster? That escape hatch is not meant to be used to get away from the reception hall to the visitor deck. I know, it's like... That's why I said not yet! One slip, and that's all it would take for Mr. Sprocket to plunge to his death. Well, you could have thought he was dying anyway. I have to agree. The defense's claim is really stretching it.
Hold it!
Also, would you just break through the glass? I understand how it sounds, Your Honor, if you could, but it might be really heavy-duty glass when you think about it being on a flying airship. But at this point, it's too early to definitively say that he didn't go that way. So that's what you're going with then, I take it? Of course, Your Honor. This is real life, Mr. Wright, not some cinematic drivel or comic book. Do you have some sort of logical explanation to share that would convince us of your claim? I do? I do? Are you sure, Nick? Did I sound sure, Maya? Kind of? Actually, I have nothing. So I'll just have to wing it somehow. On what do you base your theory that Mr. Sprocket made his way along the outside? My theory that he was able to go along the outside wall despite the danger is based on the power of authority, the power of love, or the power of money. Well, obviously, the real motivator here. To save the bride he loves, the groom risked his life and rushed to his side. Mr. Sprocket was able to make it to the visitor deck despite the danger. Because of the power of love. The power of love? That love is a source of strength that can help one overcome any obstacle. I think I can relate, thanks to my own long, happy marriage. Wow, he actually seems to be buying it.
Objection!
Gotta hit the judge where you know it works. The power of love, you say? That kind of a logical argument is hardly viable in a court of law. Wouldn't you agree, Your Honor? I'm afraid not, Miss Edgeworth. You should never underestimate the power of love. You'll understand one day when you get married. Which I won't. Why not? What? Exactly what is wrong with wishing to remain unwed? Well, I just didn't know that was your idea. Edgeworth wants to be a bachelor. Okay, that's cool. Or just doesn't want to get married, one of the two. That's interesting. Interesting little bit of character stuff for Edgeworth there. There's nothing wrong with it. If you wish to stay single for your life, that's great. This is, you made a choice. You live with that choice, and you're happy with that choice. But I just didn't think that might be like the thing for our characters here. Interesting. I say that is the most interesting thing we've got about this case. Way to set him off, Your Honor. Never mind all this unscientific nonsense. Are you aware, Mr. Wright, that at the time of the crime, he's been scared off commitment by Elbag. There was a huge propeller turning at full speed between the hatch and the visitor deck. Even if a person were to go outside for the hatch. The suction, yeah. They'd be blown away in an instant. Ah! All chopped up. Where does your power of love get you now, Mr. Wright? A huge spinning propeller, you say? In that case, I have to admit it does seem impossible. Ah, I should have known. Nick, you can't make that kind of face in front of your client. The worst of times are when lawyers have to force their biggest smiles. Right? Right. I feel like I just saw Mia looking out at me through Maya's eyes. What's wrong, Nick? Why are you gaping at me like a giant sunfish? Thank you, Maya. Just helped me remember something really important. There it is. There's that fearless smile I was looking for. Now give us a mind-blowing theory, just like you always do. I have to turn my thinking around. Instead of wondering how Sorin could have moved past that huge propeller, I have to think about what would have made it possible for him to do so. Your Honor, Mr. Wright only makes that ridiculous face when his back is pressed against the wall. Therefore, please do hurry and give your ruling before... Mr. Edgeworth, it's still far too early to discount my theory. What are you talking about? The airship's large spinning propellers have already shredded it to pieces. But if we think a little more outside the box, I'm sure we can find a way he could have made it. Stop trying to stall, Mr. Wright, and show us how it could have even been remotely possible, if at all. I must agree with Mr. Edgeworth. Very well, Your Honor. There must have been a way. Some way that Sorin could have moved along the wall and spiked the propeller. And now then, Mr. Wright. What specifically would have made it possible? This is how it would have been possible for Mr. Sprocket to get to the Vista deck. Well, the airship wasn't flying. It was moored. I mean, come on. The propeller was broken would be bad. What allowed Mr. Sprocket to go along the outside wall and spy the propellers? It's the location of the flying chapel at the time of the crime. A location of the flying chapel? But wasn't it flying high in the sky? No, Your Honor. I'm afraid it wasn't. What? Then where was it? At the time of the murder, the airship wasn't flying through the sky, but moored to the ground. How'd the prosecution not know this? What? And if the airship wasn't flying, then that means the propellers weren't turning. In which case, Mr. Sprocket could have gone to the Vista deck along the outside wall. Isn't that right, Mr. Sprocket? Oh! Wait, you stabbed your thumb too hard? I don't remember. How? He stabbed himself with his pencil. That's gonna leave a mark.
Objection!
Even if the propellers weren't turning, it would have been far too risky to go that way. Ah, but Mr. Edgeworth, you're forgetting about the power of love. Yes, the amazing power of love. Not this again. Very well. For the sake of argument, let's assume this so-called power of love made it possible for Mr. Sprocket to move along the outside wall of the airship. Can you prove that the airship was tied to the ground as you claim, Mr. Wright? Well, I don't have any evidence that proves where the airship was at the time. Let me just ask. You can prove it, can't you? Ah. Maya, can you think of anything we can use to prove it? Can't say I can. Oh, wait. Didn't somebody see something outside a window at the time of the crime? I think I remember someone saying as much. Oh my god. Instant. What the hell? Do I have a piece of evidence that shows what was outside the airship? Well, what are you waiting for? This piece of evidence shows what was outside the airship at the time of the crime. Oh my god. Wait, so that all along? Yeah, it's this. That's a kite, isn't it? Was someone flying that kind of kite the entire time while we were in that area and I didn't even realize they were flying a kite that looked like that in profile? I remember there being people flying kites there. How did I not piece that together until like Maya just said that and then all of a sudden I went, what? How did I not get that between now and then?
Take that!
It is, isn't it? This piece of evidence shows what was outside the airship at the time of the murder. What kind of lousy drawing is that? It's a drawing made by Larry Butts. And what can you prove with that poor attempt at artistry? Larry made this drawing before he switched the lanterns, so it must have been right around when the murder was being committed. Now, if I could direct the court's attention here. Is that a pterodactyl? Does that mean that the airship actually went back in time into the Cretaceous period?
Objection!
We've already proven that time travel is nothing more than a gimmick, did we not? Especially in terms of this case. We did, and I have no intention of bringing up that argument again. But this drawing shows us an important piece of information. It shows us that the airship was actually moored on the ground. And what makes you so sure? That's easy. All you have to do is consider who made this drawing. Larry. That's right. It was Mr. Butts, and we both know what he's like. He must have seen something else and mistaken it for a pterodactyl. I can't argue with you there. Hey, wait just one doggone second here. What kind of moron do you guys take me for? I saw with my own eyes. A pterodactyl flew right by the window, I tell ya. I had the sharp eyes for nice. Don't you believe me? No. Nick! Nope. Some friends you guys are. What about the judge? You believe me, right, Your Honor? I'm sorry, but I'm afraid you need to leave this courtroom. Bailiff, if you would. Come on, buddy, let's go. Why doesn't anybody believe me? Don't take it personally, Larry. I know you're just being, well, you. Now then, so you're saying that what Mr. Butts really saw bears some relation to what was outside the airship at the time of the murder? Yes, Your Honor. At least I think it does. What this pterodactyl really is will prove the airship was anchored at the mooring dock. It had better anyway. If it doesn't, my whole argument is a bust. If you're that confident about it, then please go ahead and tell us what it really was. Yes, Your Honor. But it's something I gotta present with evidence then? No, I thought people were flying kites. Was I mistaken? Think, Phoenix, what could that pterodactyl have actually been? Okay, there wasn't people flying kites in the park. Why am I imagining that people were flying kites now? Because that seems to make sense to me that people could have been doing that. So if no one was flying a kite, there was only one thing that was supposedly flying that night then. Wow, how brain dead am I? I don't even know anymore. Why did I now think there was someone flying a kite? Am I making up stuff to fit my brain now? So it's gotta be this bench, right, that took off? Oh my god! Wait! Wings, ears, a beak and mouth? It's this section of this! What the hell?
Take that!
Please take a good look at this sign. Does a pterodactyl have a beak? It doesn't, does it? And a sign? It appears to have been broken and then repaired. Oh, what does this sign have to do with the pterodactyl? Please focus on this part of the sign. The part that broke off and got reattached. What about it? How about if we turn it like this? Oh, that shape is a pterodactyl in the drawing. It's not a kite. I'm just silly. What Mr. Butts actually saw was his chunk as it was being blown through the air by wind. Why would someone be flying a kite at night? What? The miraculous state of Oliz's mind and how we get to a correct answer randomly. On the day of the murder, there were some heavy winds in the area of the mooring dock, but it's hard to imagine this sign would make it up as high as an airship would fly. That means the flying chapel must have been anchored at the mooring dock that night. Isn't that right, Mr. Sprocket?
Objection!
That's more than enough of this power of love nonsense, you pop culture junkie. Present all the proof you want, but your argument is based far too much in conjecture. Why don't we return to reality now? What do you mean, too much conjecture? Even if the airship wasn't flying, that alone doesn't prove the witness went along the wall. True. Even now it's no more than a possibility. Then how do you propose Mrs. Sprocket got to the Vista deck, Mr. Edgeworth? I noticed something as I went over the evidence. Please take a look at this hold entry record. What about it? I don't see Mr. Sprocket listed on here anywhere. And don't you remember? In yesterday's session, we had a very similar kind of argument. Did we? Honestly, Mr. Wright, are you going senile already? We talked about Larry Butts using the defendant's key card to enter the hold. Oh, we did talk about that, didn't we? In other words, even if a person's name isn't on the entry record, it's still possible for that person to have entered by using someone else's card. Mr. Sprocket, you entered the hold with Mr. Nickety, didn't you? I did. What? Why didn't you tell us that in the first place? Pierce is indispensable. I didn't want to mention him unnecessarily and risk having him wrongly accused. I couldn't do without him.
Mr. Sprocket, I ask you testify in greater detail about your movements that night.
So a new testimony has come along, but we learned kind of in a weird roundabout way, because we basically just ended up back to where we should have been at the very start of this, with the first kind of like testimony anyway. A lot of in-between about the sign and all that. So I guess the sign was just over on its side. It wasn't flying because, of course, the bottom of the mooring ship is actually quite low down. Where I was thinking high up, so I thought kite. Maybe because I was thinking a kite could be the most realistic thing that Larry saw. But it wasn't a kite at all. But it looked like one of those parks where people fly kite. And for some reason, I now invented that someone was flying a kite at some point in time out there. So I don't know where that came from. And then I was like, ha! Why didn't I not figure that out? Because it didn't actually happen, Sam. But the greater thing we found out, even though I'm getting things right, so that's great, is that Edgeworth is Bachelor for Life, ruining everyone's shipping that they've ever done throughout the series. The creators of the game just said, no doing that anymore. No shipping Edgeworth with anything, apart from Edgeworth x Edgeworth. So, with that said and done, join me next time as we continue on here for Turnabout Time Traveler on Phoenix Wright, Spirit of Justice. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.